every leader knows this does not happen by accident. There is an absolute intentionality behind it, right? Like you have to be intentional about what culture you're going to be the leader for or cast the vision for. And then you have to, put up the guardrails so people stay into that space.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Insurance Experience Podcast. I am incredibly excited to welcome Jeff Arnold today to the podcast. I have a personal story to share here. I learned about Jeff almost 6 months back from a mutual friend of ours, Jeff, who you know, obviously. And this friend of ours often talked about you as the gold standard of how to run an insurance company. And it almost got to a point where you became this mythical figure for me to meet and find an opportunity to work with. And now we're lucky and we're fortunate to find a way to collaborate together. And that's just been super exciting for me. For those of you that are just joining, Jeff is, I'm going to talk about a few things about you, Jeff. I hope that's okay. You're the founder of RIGHTSURE, North America's most awarded insurance firm. You have done so much in your career. You started by serving in the army. Then you pursued acting and drama in Hollywood. Then you tried a hand at stand-up comedy, which was awesome. I mean, people who know you personally know that you've got a great sense of humor. But more recently, as an industry icon, you've co-founded and exited a number of financial businesses, insurance businesses. You've worked in investing and operating. You've written books. So I guess like my biggest question to you is, how do you manage to do all of this stuff?
Well, first of all, Amrish, thanks for having me on the show. It's not every day we hear good sayings and accolades. I'm going to drink that in, right? But so firstly, thank you for that. And our mutual friend has said the same celebratory things about you. So I was honored the moment we got to meet. Of course, for me, it's I stand on the shoulders of all the famously friendly humans at RightSure, right? Without them, wouldn't be here. They've given me the ability to write 10 books, right? To buy soccer teams and to work on private equity and venture capital projects with other people. And so I don't say that to beat my chest. I say it's such a great team, and so many people have been here for 20 years, 26 years, 28 years that we're very fortunate. Of course, you have to be intentional about recruiting. So I just want to start to make sure that I give credit where it's due, and that's to all the fantastic the female leaders, executives team of RightSure, and then every staff member. So, but as far as how we find time, man, when it's a passion, it's not work, right? And so the difference, and your listeners, and you can attest to this, like when you've had to work for someone, you can feel the soul sucking of your energy just leaving sometimes if it's something you don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
Conversely, if it's something whether it's on your own or you're working someone that you're deeply passionate about with and engaged, it's not work, right? And so for me, none of this is work. I love literally finding a way to help people pay less for insurance and have a better insurance experience. I love writing, and I love serving on boards and giving input, right? So I'm fortunate to serve on a lot of boards where some of it is received and some of it is not. Some of it is junk. We don't all have good ideas, but it's invigorating, right? So at any rate, I'll be short and succinct there, but I'm super happy to be on your show, Amrish, because our mutual friend has talked us both up to where like, oh, am I worthy to be on the Liberate show? Well, okay, well, thank you.
You definitely are, and a lot more. You know what I loved about what you just said is you picked on two really important things. One is passion, and the other one is people. And my goal of starting the Insurance Experience podcast was surfacing the stories of the people who work in insurance. I think the this industry in all of my career just has way more passionate people than anybody else and anywhere else I've ever been, and that's what really attracted me to building a career in insurance. Question I have for you as you think about people is, your company has won a lot of awards on innovation, on workplace culture. I've had the fortune of interacting with a lot of leaders in your company. What I would love to learn is, as you think about other agency owners, carrier executives, leaders in insurance, what advice would you give them for those that are looking to build an innovative and positive work environment? Because that really stands out at RightSure. Like you go in, people are genuinely excited about coming to work. The idea of being famously friendly humans is incredibly important, and they live that culture. But how do you do that? How do you create that environment in the company?
Thank you for that. First of all, every leader knows this does not happen by accident. There is an absolute intentionality behind it, right? Like you have to be intentional about what culture you're going to be the leader for or cast the vision for. And then you have to, put up the guardrails so people stay into that space. And as we all know, one bad hire can destroy your culture from the inside out, right? That's a cancer that eats out. And so one of the great things that our leaders are just fantastic about are, as another thing, you run divisions and companies that when you need someone and you need them really bad, you've got a lot of blind spots on, right?
Yeah.
So you hire based upon this one thing, not realizing how they're going to impact the rest of the organization. And so we hire very slow and we fire very quick, right? That's not easy to do, but the end result is people with decades of experience here. And the way we do that is we do a lot of personality tests like anyone can do, but we do a computer literacy test, how you would handle arguments in confrontational situations, right? Like, can you adapt our method of correcting the behavior without destroying the person, right? Because we're not about destroying people. You got to get to the root of the behavior. And so there's a whole quite literally system of standards and benchmarks that a famously friendly human has to abide by. And just I'll go a little deeper here, almost is like day one in your company, however you start people, that's how you're recruiting them to bring other people on. And I would submit to you and your listeners that nobody starts in RightShare coming in and being told, there's your desk, we'll get to you or we get to you. Before that famously friendly human accepts their offer, right, their employment offer, the intentionality is that their first day, nothing about insurance, nothing about the job. It's, this is how we do it here, right?
Amazing.
This is how we answer the phones. This is how you talk to our customers. And there's scripts, there's words with meaning, things you can say and don't say. You meet with everyone, right? You're interviewed by multiple people to make sure you're fit, that there's no blinders on. And then your day will start with your manager, who is not allowed to say, go sit over here. It's like, no,
Yeah.
we'll worry about all the other stuff you're going to do. Today, you're going to learn how to be famously friendly human. And then I'll be a little quicker. We take them to an entire series of what it means to be famously friendly humans. If I could dive just a little deep. So if you are listening, if you'll visually paint in your mind a line on a piece of paper and do a -10 on the far left-hand side and do a +10 on the right-hand side. I'll go slow to catch so you can catch it up. And then in between that -10 and +10, if you'll put a -5, a 0, a +5, and a +10, and you draw a line there, we're really only interested in +10 people and +10 behaviors. But you have to define what those +10 behaviors are.
Correct.
So very quickly, before you answer a phone at RightShare, we tell you what a -10 is. And a -10 is that you say hello. Well, good luck, goodbye. You're not going to make it at RightShare, right? That is not family friendly. Or if you had -5, good morning, this is Jeff. You're also not wanted. Please go work anywhere but here. You just keep moving forward on that scale to a +10, where you greet, listen, repeat, and verify and restate their name, right? So what that means to be a +10, to answer a RightShare phone, even if you're the president or handle our shareholder relations or answer our most important calls, our customer calls, right? You better greet with the greeting, and it changes. You better listen, repeat what they say, use their name. That's the only way to get a +10. And admittedly, that's a longer answer, but let me tell you the difference is there are 383 standards in our company that are documented from -10 to +10. So it's really easy to say to someone who clocked in 5 minutes late, instead of, trying to correct the behavior and destroy the person, it's like, hey, that's a great 0 or -5. What we're really looking for is +10s. And 8 o'clock is late. 7:59 clocked in on time is a +10, right? So
Got
The
it.
point is, we have 380 standards and benchmarks that the employees or staff members, famous for hand the humans, get exposed to. Now it's gamified, right? It's like,
Ah,
oh, way to be at a +5. Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed today, right? Because we're all pushing for +10. And quite candidly, you know how many people tell me they can feel the energy when they walk through the doors? It's palpable. No one has to tell you it's famously friendly and North America's most awarded. They tell me, honestly, we walk through the doors of RightSure, we talk to people and we feel it, right? That it is a palpable energy. So long-winded answer, Amrish, but hopefully there's some insight into
yeah.
the processes there.
So what resonates with me is one, in an industry where, we all recognize insurance is very cost constrained right now. It's hard to hire people. It's really difficult to retain people. It's hard to get quality. It's really hard to maintain margin. What really resonates with me is how conscientiously you focus on getting people that who join RightSure to understand the process without just like shoving them into the workflow, into the job, right? Because you really have to fight the tendency to just like, hey, just get to work, just start doing stuff, just start picking up phone calls, and the negative consequence of that would be that you lose the value and the brand that you're creating as a company, and more importantly, the expectation your customers have off of you, right? In your world, you have very premium customers. They know that when they will call, they will get a certain guaranteed standard of service. And this is what resonates a lot with me, is the fact that you're able to achieve this. So question for you on that, I just want to double click on this. This is a fascinating topic for me, and I'm sure it's going to be an important topic for anyone who's trying to build a business, right, and get to the aspiration that the RightSure has. How long does it take for someone, typically, as they come into the company, to learn the RightSure way and to operate as famously friendly human?
Day one starts with, I'm going to meet with them, right? And by the way, this isn't just because we're smaller now with 70 employees. When I ran companies that had 5,000 employees, right? It was like your first day, you're meeting with your leaders and CFO, CEO, they're giving your time because that sets the tone to the person. I'm nobody in my mind, but my title when I ran much larger companies, even now, it's like, be a bit self-aggrandizing. I'm on the cover of like 12 different insurance magazines. So they see me in person, like there's like, oh, but you're ugly in person. At any rate, but the point is there's a title and there's a discipline and responsibility that comes with your title to set the tone, not for them to walk into your office and to be able to, for you to grace them with your presence. It's like, I'm a servant leader. I don't have an office, and day one, I'm probably going to get their coffee and their water, right? Hey, I'm heading to Starbucks. It's your first day. What can I get you, right? And so we set that intentionality from day one. Man, we're in the business of building fast-paced enterprises, trying to scale, investors wanting better returns faster. The last thing we have time for is to give somebody half an hour or half a day of our time as leaders. But it pays dividends like you can't imagine, because they're like, nobody has ever poured into me my first day. It's usually like, here's a pen, there's your desk, somebody will teach you how to walk in.
Yeah.
And it goes very, very far. And you're saying like we all struggle with getting people, right? There's not enough people. And by the way, that's what your platform does for us, is it allows us to scale much faster, to leverage our famously friendly humans by using technology. Keep in mind, if you're running an organization, you can't just buy technology for technology's sake. Of all the mistakes I've made, and I'll talk a lot about it in The Art of the Insurance Deal and How to Be Your Insurance Company. Not a shameless plug for the books, but to tell you, if there's a way to fail, I've done it, right? And so I've chased every shiny, blinky new software as a service or technology out there, thinking that if I acquired this, I would differentiate it, or I would be, tech forward or whatever. And in fact, if you're buying it just for that and you don't understand the use case and how it integrates with your system, standards, and benchmarks, you won't be tech forward. You won't be an insurtech. You'll be tech shackled. And people will be hampered on the phones, and customers will get that. And so that's an amalgamation of several different things. You have to buy tech for the right reasons. And we talk about being tech enabled, tech forward, or tech shackled. There are some products that make us tech enabled. Our Liberate product makes us tech forward, right?
Yeah.
And certainly there are things that we still use that have tech shackled us because we didn't have the right intentionality of what we were going to use it for.
So I love this concept of tech enabled and tech shackled. Let's double click on that for a second. Right? I think we're entering this interesting territory where there is a strong need for the idea of humanity in the insurance industry. And at the same time, there is an important need for AI or other technologies, supercharging people. The thing that I often, I'd love to get your take on this is when we talk about these sort of more really innovative technologies, right? Like what we do with AI, insurance companies often get afraid about this dramatically changing their organization. Oh, our people are going to be scared that this technology is coming in and it's going to take over jobs, and people are going to have a challenge adopting this, and I don't know how customers will perceive this. What's your take on this? Where does technology fit in, and where does humanity still really important to be a part of the entire experience?
Another shameless plug, Amrish. Sorry. So in my in my book, Tech Enabled, Tech Forward, and Tech Shackled, right? It's a short
Yeah.
primer. I talk about this again because again, I'm fortunate to stand on the shoulders of a lot of great people, and so stand on my shoulders of all these failures and get higher and get better. So as a leader, you do have to decide. That you're going to enable tech, right? But you want it to be tech forward. You're going to have to change technology. It happens. But you have to know this, that if you introduce change into your organization, right, this is an absolute certainty. It doesn't go any further than this. There's going to be 3 different ways people interact with change, right?
Okay.
And I don't care if you're changing your payroll provider, your 401k, or your rates, or your office hours, whatever. Any change, the amount of coffee you serve, any change you introduce into your organization, your people are going to fall into one of 3 camps. One are going to be the early adopters, those who just like, hey, I get on, I like change, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Let's go. And those are your true leaders. Know where they are, and they're different based upon the type of change, right?
Mm.
There is the ones that are sitting on the sideline, just standing back, quietly observing. Which camp am I going to join? And then there's the worst camp, which their arms are crossed, their heels are dug in, they're
Yeah.
looking down, not making eye contact, waiting to prove you wrong about
Yeah.
what an inept, uneducated leader you are. All right.
Yeah.
Your job as the leader is, if you've chosen the right path, is to get the other 2 camps to bring this camp along, right? Like you don't want to, in the past, I would have just removed those people, right? Because my leadership style wasn't where it is today, or the experience or whatever. But your job when you introduce change as technology, as platform or whatever, is to understand those 3 camps. And then here's the golden rule. You cannot over communicate, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't. And it used to be, again, when I've been part of $1 billion companies and $900 million companies, and I won't bore you with all the names of them, but I've learned a lot in those leadership roles, right? And it used to be that where you had 5,000 plus employees, if I, as a president, sent out an email, it got read, bro. I mean, that's just what it was, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it to the bathroom without somebody saying. Now, there are 5 different generations in the workforce, right? From boomers to Gen Z to Gen X, millennial, and in some cases, Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
The last 3 do not do email. So
Yeah.
if you didn't
Yeah.
text it or send a video, you're irrelevant. And so the reason I added that part is I now have to communicate with my people, and you do too, dear leader, whatever change you're integrating into your organization. You got to meet them where they're at. I can't just send an email. I have to do videos now for my
Yeah. Yeah.
things. And I have to do text to say, here's the video. And then I have to get into our other chat programs to make sure. And so not only do you have to communicate in more ways, but you have to communicate more often. And I could spend 30 minutes going into this, but again, you introduce change. There's 3 ways you're going to respond, and you got to communicate at how they want to receive it.
I love it. So this explains a lot of things to me. So I'll tell you a personal story. When we went live with you folks, you taught us something about the act of deploying technology that was so eye-opening for us. We adopted that with every other customer we now do this with. So specifically, when we went live, you did this thing where you recorded a video, you informed all of your employees that, we're doing this new thing. You talked very clearly in a recorded video what it was. And then you texted and you communicated. And what the net impact of this was, and this is where, our employees were there at RightShow when this happened, everybody instantaneously knew what was happening. Often with these change initiatives, the water cooler conversation is how information gets disseminated, and it ends up creating all kinds of challenges, right? You're playing a game of telephone basically. But that one act at the point of going live was so powerful because instantaneously everybody learned from the leader. And so what we did as a result is we said, all right, we've learned something new from Jeff. And so we're not going to apply this. And now we go to every other customer and we do the same thing. We create a script. We say, oh, we've learned that, this is what you need to do. And we make them record a video. So thank you for teaching us that. I think that was
fantastic. And I can't take credit for it, right? I've learned from other people, right? So I received that, but I also pass it on to the people that I've learned from. And interestingly enough, that resonates really well with the later generations, right? But
yes.
Baby boomers and older Gen Xers are like, you could have sent me an email, bro. And again, it's how you just have to adapt to all of them. And so, by the way, that same script was pulled out through Fireflies or something, and also emailed verbatim to folks who prefer just the email. So yeah, you can't over communicate these days, but you have to choose which method of communication is, right? So many ventures that I'm involved in as a board member want to roll out Slack, and they feel really tech forward because we use Slack.
Yeah.
I challenge them. I'm like, all right, but you understand that everyone over 45 is behind on the communication now, and you're playing telephone game, but you're just playing it with Slack, right? Because they wanted it in. So there's just, again, there's no one way. You're going to have to augment, adapt your communication styles.
So you illustrated a really interesting theory I have about high-performing individuals, which is high-performing individuals have an ability to rapidly learn new things and incorporate those learnings in the act of how they operate. And in our conversation in the last 30 minutes, you've illustrated this multiple times, right? You've talked about how there's 5 different generations. Those generations will react differently. And so you need to adapt to the times, and you need to be able to communicate them differently. You've talked about how when new employees come in, you're able to standardize the process because you've learned that's really important to get them to operate. One of the things that I am very invested in is understanding how you codify this act of learning and rapidly improving, because that makes you a high performing. What's your secret? How do you learn it? How do you learn something, incorporate, adapt, deploy, improve? How does that work for you?
So it's evolved like everyone. I always have a list. I'm writing it and sending it to myself, and then everyone's different, right? So let's talk. I'm going to focus on strengths for a second, then I'll lay bare my many weaknesses, right? And so, which are too great to mention all. There's not enough recording time, but for me, just like everyone else, if you keep giving birth to new ideas and memorializing, documenting, writing those down, more pop into your mind from the universe, spirit, whatever you accrete it to, right? So I'm constantly fortunate enough to give birth to a lot of ideas, can never capitalize on them all. But for me, I just have an Excel that I keep them in now. I used to just have Post-it notes and everything. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of lines of Excels of ideas that I still have to get to. But then I portion it like, can this one be monetized? Does this one make sense? What would it take to change this? And so for me, it's just all those ideas that pop in. Now, let me tell you the bad side to that, right? Because I love change. I thrive on change. And I literally don't care about failure. I don't believe in failure. I believe it's one step forward to success, right? So I never carry failure forward. We fail bigly, no big deal, right? And I failed bigly, right? I was part of taking a $900 million company, famously, right? I don't want to do that again. I mean, I think blame words too. I was culpable for part of it, right? But moving forward, I capture all those ideas, don't worry about failure, and then somebody act on. The other piece I was going to say is, one of my biggest weaknesses is, because I move so fast, don't carry failure forward, I forget that other people are gripped with fear at the thought of failing. Maybe they were punished as a child for not doing something, so that's in who they are. So that's number one. I got to get them over that, but I need them to have their foot on the brake sometime. But then my biggest weakness, which I'm slowly getting better at, but I'm reminded all the time by our executives that I didn't, is it's twofold. If you think of a double barrel shotgun, I am always ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire. I'm like,
Yeah.
fire, let's just fire, break it. We'll aim later. They're like, well, if we'd have aimed a little bit, we could have used less ammo, less cash. But I'm like, that's okay. I'm not worried about failure, right?
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have capital and cash to have a runway.
Yeah.
The other piece is I'm always failing to take situational resources needed because I'm like, well, I'll work an 18-hour day, everyone will. And that's not true, right? Some people, it's just a position. Even though they're famously friendly, at 7 hours and 59 minutes, they're mentally gone.
Yeah.
And so I'm always failing and getting challenged on how many resources we need in the time. Like, you know, the integrations we're going through here, and a lot of people would want to take a 5-week or a month runway to throw in Liberate. Your people came in that day. I'm like, let's turn it on. Let's turn it on. Right? Let's go. They're like, well, we've got some stuff to do. Let's break it all. We will. It's, you know, it's horrible. But the example that my team leads is like, Jeff, you would leave the freaking runway with no wheels and only one engine on, and the thing's going to crash, but you don't care. I'm like, well, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
As long as we're alive. So anyway, there's a side story there.
That's impressive. You're breaking a lot of misconceptions about this industry, right? Like from the outside in, people think about how very slow moving industry, takes a long time to get things done, hard to innovate, hard to deploy. And you serve as a counterexample of how you can be rapidly iterating and be incredibly successful. So I guess the question I would have for you is, if you think about how you're operating and you would sort of turn that around as advice to other entrepreneurs who are eager to be successful in this industry. You know, this can be a up and coming agency owner that wants to rapidly grow, an up and coming MGA, a carrier, anyone. What are sort of the 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give them based on your learnings that will enable them to make a dent in this industry faster?
Yeah, so I'm going to murder my limited French ability, but I think it's called cherchez le canot. A French for find the hole and fill it, right? Loosely translated, like what's the pain point, right? Like so much of what we hear, and we're going to hear at this upcoming ITC conference we're going to, is people telling you how they're going to disrupt the insurance industry. And half of those have never even bought their own insurance policy. So I struggle with that, right? But I encourage them and I offer them, you know, hey, call me anytime. But if you want to truly disrupt, you have to find the pain point that people are having. And so for ours, I can tell you right now, our secret sauce, it's nothing secret. It's the same thing that I've charged every offsite that I'm invited to speak at large companies that you all know and love, right? Which I'm invited to speak to their executive. One of the first things I challenge them with, and they can't imagine how it would happen, but we do it, get rid of voicemail. They're like, no, you don't understand. No, I do understand. It's a business prevention tool, and you're saying that your time is more important than your customer getting hold of someone. So what I hear you saying is the people calling to give you money aren't as important as you controlling your calendar, right? There is no voicemail. 2 people in our company have voicemail. 2.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a famously friendly human when we're open. But it's not saying you have to give it a voicemail. I'm like, if you want to disrupt, find a pain point. A pain point for us where people would leave voicemails. You can never get a hold of anyone. And keep in mind, it's not like they hold an insurance agent with the same esteem as their doctor or their lawyer that they can't get in to see. They just expect you to answer the phone right then. You got to give them what they want. And the other piece is, if you're forcing them into all these touch tone gates at phones, which people famously like to do, which my staff is always asking me to do. And I'm like, nope, I exist in this presidential role for 2 things: make sure speed's in our organization, and you guys stop putting up barriers to give us money. That's my only role, right? Because they would love to have everyone do stuff so they can go back to doing nothing. It's not a condemnation of my people. All of our people are driven to distraction. We want to get back to doing nothing. Right? We all live to do nothing, scroll, think, whatever. And so if you want to disrupt, be a customer in your organization, see how long you have to wait on hold. Call from your phone while you're driving and go through the nuanced craziness of pushing 15 buttons. No, we don't allow it. And so rate is important, technology is important, but the consumer journey through every part of your organization and how your people respond to the people calling to give you money, it's the most important thing.
If you want to disrupt, be a customer of your organization. That is phenomenal advice. And I agree. I think that it's surprising how many people probably don't do that, just to be transparent. So you've done a lot, you've accomplished a lot, you've been in this industry a lot. If you were to look forward 5 years, 10 years, what are the one or two things that excite you the most about what's going to come next for insurance?
Selfishly, what we're doing, Amrish, seriously, I mean, this merging our platform, our people with your technology gives us the opportunity to scale the way we want to do it, right? By not supplanting humans, but by leveraging their very unique skill set and knowledge. And if you're new to the industry listening, or you've been in this less than 3 years, I'm most excited about all the new people joining our industry. And here's why, right? Like my next book is being written now. It's on the beauty of the industry, and it needs you. It needs everyone. And I just briefly will go into this, that you might not know it, but it is the sexiest, most awesome industry that will fulfill any of your dreams. And let me just give you a couple deep dive things. So if you are the introverted type that just likes to play around in your spreadsheet and you get great satisfaction from that, we need you. We need you in our actuarial and our rate setting things.
Yeah.
If you're a person that is an empath that loves to help people at their deepest, darkest hour, we want you. You are desired in claims, right? If you are an extrovert who can talk to anyone, you will make a lot of money in our industry, right? If you're enamored with law and legal contracts, that's what we sell, is legal contracts. The industry needs you. So the problem with our industry is we've done a really poor job of saying how sexy and awesome it is, because they think it's all just one field. Oh, you got to be outgoing and salesy or pushy. That no matter your personality, no matter your desire, no matter what makes you passionate, you can fulfill that in this industry. If I can just take 2 more minutes to tell a short story, Amrish, I don't want to go over your time or anything, but it's kind of one of those predestined things. So my daddy, his daddy, his daddy, his daddy were all preachers. I'm the first one not to preach in 4 generations. But as a young 13-year-old hillbilly working on the farm in Kentucky, I remember being a hot summer day and this guy drove up in a 4-door Buick. It used to be a car that was made in America, right?
Yep.
Here's the key. It was July and the windows were rolled up. That means the guy had air conditioning. So he already had my attention, right? Because we had trucks and noise.
Yeah.
I mean, we're preacher's kids. You got to live on the corner of what everyone else does, but look the same. But anyway, everyone's working in the family. And then he got out in this starched white crisp shirt with a tie on and slacks and like some Bostonian shoes or something, just awesome. And I remember saying to the guy next to me on the hay bale, Chuck, one of my best friends, like, hey, what's that guy do? And he said, insurance or something like that, right? And so fast forward, that was my first exposure to this multisyllabic word known as insurance. And I thought you got to drive around and look cool. Fast forward 12 years later, I'm a failed comic. I need to eat, put gas in the car, pay rent. I answered a job for insurance salesman, as cliche as it sounds. I'm here to tell you, after 33 years, I've been at the company level, at the agency level, at the MGA. Anything you're passionate about, you can find in our industry. And I'll just end it with, this industry needs you and people like you. One caveat, if you stay for 3 years, you'll never get out. So just know that. Like, you're in forever.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic way to end. So Jeff, last question from my side is, this is amazing. And for people who want to follow you, listen to you, track you, where do they go?
Thank you for that, Amrish. The easiest place is my website, my personal website, Jeff Arnold, JEFFARNOLD.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for being on the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.